He was a former professional wrestling personality and sports analyst. He's known for his time in the WWE, where he served as a commentator, interviewer, and even a brief on-screen authority figure. Straight Outta Jersey welcomes the coach, Jonathan Coachman.
All right, welcome. I'm Joe Zapata, and I got the man, Jonathan Coachman. What's up, Coach?
Joe, it's pretty nice to finally come on a show that respects the coach enough to have an intro, a voiceover guy. So you just ruined it for every other show that asked me to come on, because that's going to be in my rider, as they call it. If you don't have an intro, voiceover guy, can't do it. Thanks for having me on. Great to finally meet you.
Well, you know, you don't age. You seem to look great. What are you doing? Because you don't age at all.
It's so crazy because other than hair that I had when I started the WWE, I have people say that to me all the time. I have no wrinkles yet. I don't know what it is, but I will tell you the secret that years ago when I was on the road every week with WWE, I used to go to this black barbershop and they would give me a fade. And when you get a fade, then it grows really fast. So I had to get it once every week. So I walked in one time and I had signed a picture and he put it up on his wall of celebrities. Well, Joe, if you're on a wall of celebrities, my thought process is I can jump the line. Well, this particular week, I hadn't shaved my head. It was kind of like a Chio pet, and kind of all over the place. So I walk in and I said to him, I need to get a coach. I got 3 or 4 people sitting here. And that was when I decided I was going to shave my head. But the next time in, I said, listen, I was a little bit offended that you didn't. And as I'm telling them this, people walk in and sing happy birthday. I kid you not. And I looked at him and I said, how old are you? And I'm not kidding. I thought he was probably 41 or 42. He goes, I'm 63 years old. Wow. And I said, you've got to be kidding me. I said, what are you doing? And he gave me his secret. And that day I started using what he told me for. I'm not going to give it away because I don't want everybody to look as good as I do. But I started doing it that day, and I still don't have any wrinkles. Face is still smooth as a baby's bottom. Mm-hmm. And hopefully it continues, because I still feel like I have 30 really good years left. I'm just getting started. I got a ton of energy. I'm ready to go.
Looks like you could take some more bumps if you need to, right? How's your health though from taking those bumps? You okay? No injuries, no major injuries?
Health is good. There's times where, I had a couple of pretty bad cuts in my head. That, a couple of chair shots here and there, tables here and there. Physically, I feel great. I still work out quite a bit. I do a lot of stretching now that I've gotten into my late 40s. But all in all, other than, you forget things now and then. I never know if it's because of bumps or if it's because I'm just, in straight up middle age. I'm not sure, but I feel great. I get up every single day around 5 a.m. I have a morning. I live out here in the West Coast, so I do shows at 7 a.m. and I'm locked in all the way until 1 or 2 in the afternoon for me. So I think that keeps me young, but there's a lot of days, Joe, that alarm goes off at 5 a.m. I'm like, oh my God, I don't want to do this today. And then I remember how much I love doing it. And then I pop right out of bed and here we go.
So you were in ESPN, you were in wrestling. Yep. Who was coach growing up? Were you a sports guy? Did you love sports?
This was everything to me. I grew up in Kansas in little towns. I was adopted right from the hospital, and my parents, they still live in Kansas to this day.
Oh, wow.
And I've always been a hardcore sports fan. I've never had a plan B. I was a really, really, really good athlete, but I played college basketball, great college basketball, but there aren't a lot of 6'3" and a half players that can't jump playing in the NBA. So early on, my dad said, hey, listen, if you can't, play pro basketball I was really good at baseball too. He said, what do you want to do? And this was it. And I got very lucky in my career. I zigged and zagged. I had no visions of ever doing pro wrestling. I was a fan, but you got to understand, in Kansas, when you're growing up in the 80s, we didn't have cable TV till like 1987, 1988. And you're only, sports casting was always everything to me. I've never had a day, I promise you, I've never had one single day, no matter whether it was at ESPN, at WWE on the road, or now that we have a hybrid between sitting in a home studio and traveling. I've never had a day where I haven't wanted to do it. I genuinely, Joe, when I tell you I love this more than anything, I love this more than anything, except my kids.
Okay. How did you get into the WWE? How did that happen?
I'll give you the Reader's Digest version, but anybody that watches this interview that doesn't know my story, I'm telling you right now, whatever you want to do, whether it feels like it's attainable or not attainable, you never know when somebody is watching. And I've done a lot of jobs this way, but this particular job, I had just gotten to Kansas City. I was super young, 23 years old. I graduated college when I was young. And in the Midwest, they'll share talent. Like if you're Wichita and Kansas City, they'll have a talent be like, hey, you've got somebody at the basketball game. Can they do a live shot for us? So I knew Kansas City, and one of their sports guys left, and their news director called down and said, hey, we love Coach. Can we bring him up here? He can still do stuff for you guys. So I was only in Wichita for less than a year, and then I was only in Kansas City for a month. When they sent me to do a series of pieces on the WWE. And so WWF at the time gave me tickets. I was the only one, Joe, that was in the building when Owen Hart fell from the Raptors and died right in front of us. And because of that, I was on all the big shows, Good Morning America, Larry King Live, all of those. And the WWE had already booked the same arena for the very first SmackDown, if you can believe, was August 24th, 1999. It was 26 years ago, and that was Vince's birthday, Vince McMahon's birthday. And so I'll never forget that date as long as I live. They couldn't sell any tickets, which is understandable because a lot of people had just seen somebody fall and die right in front of them, including myself. But I had been very fair. I always feel like you don't want to just crucify somebody. So I get a call, and they wanted to bring Shawn Michaels to my station because back then UPN was a thing. It was like one of the networks. And we had the UPN and ABC in our station. So they brought him. I got to meet Shawn Michaels. He had just married his wife that he's had for all these years. She was a Nitro girl back then. And I did an interview with him. And 3 days later, I got a phone call from the senior VP. And he goes, hey, listen, Coach, we're looking for a new announcer. I said, I've only been here for 4 months at this point. And they're like, oh, still, come out for an interview. Just, And I didn't have any outs in my contract. And what outs are is when you're in local TV, say you're in Kansas City, it's market 33, you'll have a top 10 out, meaning if New York City calls and said, hey, we want Coach, I can go, no questions asked, because it's a top 10 market. So I had no outs. I was going to be there for 3 years, again, super young. And I had never been in New York. So I took the audition on a day off, no desire to go. Didn't think I was going to go. And they offered me the job on the spot. I went in, did an audition, get called up. Kevin Dunn, the legendary producer, he hired me on the spot. And that was the same day that they're like, hey, you got a couple hours before you got to go back to the airport. You want to work out? And I'll never forget this, Joe. I went over to the WWE headquarters, which is exit 9 off of 95. And I walk into the gym. There's two people in the gym.
Who?
Deborah, legendary diva, and Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Wow.
And myself. And instantly I was nervous. There had been rumors that Stone Cold and Deborah were dating. Nobody knew. Nobody saw. Well, I saw. And I still didn't think I was going to go. And so I remember Stone Cold came over and he asked me to spot him on the bench. Well, I remember thinking to myself, man, excuse me, if I don't do this correctly, I could hurt the biggest star in the business right now from a bench. I was nervous. But long story short, I get back to Kansas City. And this is something that I'm most proud of is I walked in, my boss is a news director, and I told him, here's what they're offering. And what they offered was I could do Raw and SmackDown, which was Monday and Tuesday, and still work in Kansas City Wednesday through Sunday for the duration of my career or my contract. And then go to WWE full time. So I'm thinking, man, I'm young, two jobs, both one, 70 grand, the other one low 6 figures. I mean, I'm going to be making bank until my boss said to me, you're an idiot. Why would you ever want to go and do that pro wrestling stuff? We're going to make you the number one guy here. As soon as Lenny Dawson, the Hall of Fame quarterback, is gone, I was going to be the guy. It was going to be the guy. So this is 1999. Yeah, Lenny Dawson, he retired somewhere around 2016, 2017.
Okay.
So I'd have been the number 2 guy for damn near 17 years. But we come to find out that my station was trying to afford a helicopter, and they just couldn't come up with the money. So WWE bought me out of my contract, wrote a check for $200,000 or $300,000, and my station used that money to buy it, to down payment on a helicopter. So every time I go back to see my folks, they get that station, and so they'll say, "Let's go up to Chopper 9. Chopper 9, John, what do you got over there over I-135?" And I'm like, "I helped buy that. I helped buy that." And so I had to work the whole football season, but once football was over, I went to Connecticut full time in January of 2000, and the rest is history. But that's how it happened.
Wow. You're a young man. You're 23 years old.
Yeah.
Vince McMahon could be very intimidating for someone that young like you. Mm-hmm. How was your relationship with him? And I know he's been in the news a lot of things, so how did that go?
Yeah, my relationship was great with him. That's why I'm very conflicted whenever I'm asked about Vince McMahon, because I've been very clear in whatever interviews I do, especially since, my role's different now. And part of the reason that I got to do a lot of things was because Vince trusted me, and he knew that I was a guy that was going to show up. I was going to do what he and Kevin Dunn wanted me to do. And so what ended up happening was, "Coach, we need you to host Tough Enough." I did the first 2 or 3. "We need you to host the Divas, and the Diva Search." I did those. "We need you to pick out the XFL cheerleaders." I did all of those. So those were, for a young single man, some of the greatest gigs you could have. And you're also next to the most creative genius this business has ever seen. Now, with that being said, there were times where I couldn't go home for holidays, or I would miss certain things that, in hindsight, I wish I would have stuck up for myself. But the bottom line and the truth is this, that I saw people get fired for less than missing for a funeral or a wedding or whatever it is. You just didn't miss shows. And I see now all these guys are like, Triple H lets us off for this, and I can take a month off and be on a movie. And I'm like, damn, we never were allowed to do that. And that part I still get a little pissed off at, because there's certain things that I can't get back. But at the same time, I have 2 beautiful kids. I met their mother when I was on the road for the WWE, so I'm forever grateful for that. I think Vince putting me in charge of a lot of these things has allowed me, now that I kind of run my own business and have multiple shows, I deal with executives at networks. I deal with, coaching young talent that has never been at the national level. I learned all of that from my time in the WWE. I had a room that they set up for me every single building. So if Entertainment Tonight wanted an interview with Vince or The Rock or Stone Cold, Vince would not allow them backstage. He was so paranoid about things getting out, which is why it's hysterical to me now that they're going to do a show on Netflix called Unreal, where they're going to take cameras into the writer's room and literally show how the bread is made. Vince, back in the day, would not even allow reporters backstage to do interviews. And now we're going to show the entire audience how the bread is made. I have severe issues with that, but I don't call the shots. Back then, I would work with the talent during the day. I had my own crew. If there was a home video, if you've seen a home video that came out from 2000 to 2007, when DVDs were still a thing, there's a very good chance I did the interview. And that's what we did during the day. Now they just sit around. They wait for somebody to tell them what to do. They don't practice, which is why a lot of the matches are not good. And they've gotten away from a lot of the things that made the business great. They're making more money. Yes. They have a little bit more time off. Yes. But learning from Vince, if you want to be great, Joe, then you've got to be great every single day of your life at whatever it is that you are doing. So when I say conflicted, I'm conflicted because I know Vince made me great with what I'm doing. But I'm also conflicted because sometimes I feel like I should be more upset at the allegations or what he has done. but I wasn't there. I don't know. He said, she said, so I haven't been that vocal about it. But he's a guy who helped mold my professional career. So it's hard because I was probably, for a non-big wrestling talent, I was probably around Vince more than anybody else over the course of a 3 or 4 year period. So that's as honest of an answer as I can give you.
Wow. And you were in the Attitude Era, which is one of the best eras, ever. And you and The Rock had some great chemistry. And I think The Rock really pushed you. How's your relationship with The Rock?
I mean, we've seen each other several times over the years. The one thing about the wrestling business is when you're in it, you're just going. So you don't stop to see somebody. The nice thing was when I got to ESPN back then, they were still coming to Bristol to promote movies. So I would see him, once every 6 months when a movie would come out. And then all the stars realized I don't want to go all the way up there. So they started going to New York. So I stopped seeing him. I've texted this year a couple of times with Brian Gerwitz, who's his head writer and has been for many, many years. A little fun fact, I sublet my very first apartment in Stamford, Connecticut from Brian Gerwitz, who is, runs, helps. And all those years ago. So we have that in common. I will say this, that the thing I've learned from The Rock, kindness. He treats everybody very well. He's very driven. I don't know that I've ever met anybody that loves money more than The Rock, but he also wants to earn it. And he also has taught me a lot of my broadcasting style and how I do it. I learned from him. When the red light comes on, you just turn yourself up 10 notches. You probably heard him say that in several interviews, but also timing and the way that he would pause for the crowd and interact with the crowd and make sure that everybody knew the crowd was as important to what he was doing as anything. I give him a lot of credit. And I think that my style is fun. I can do anything, any sport, any platform. And I think a lot of it is because of him, because he also has been on a lot of different platforms, a lot of different ways. And I also don't like being put in a box. And I think we've finally gotten to a point where because of The Rock, because of John Cena, because of other people who have crossed over, including myself, there was nobody before me, Joe, that went to ESPN or vice versa. No. You've seen several go to ESPN from WWE, but now you're starting to see Joe Tessitore, Pat McAfee go the other way, because a lot of the executives that were there when I was there that didn't want a wrestling guy. I had a top executive that I've never met in person to this day who actively tried to get me out of ESPN after 2 years.
Wow.
Simply because he just didn't like wrestling. Didn't know me, just didn't like wrestling, and tried to screw over my career in the process. Thank goodness he's gone now. And you're starting to see even ESPN, which I helped bring in when Vince called me one night and said, hey, we need to have WWE content on ESPN. Why? They were trying to do the big Fox deal. So I, in a roundabout way, I said, okay, I'll try to make it happen. I did. So they took all of that, Joe, and they said to Fox, see, if ESPN will put us on, then why can't you take SmackDown? And what happened? They signed a $1 billion deal for Friday Night SmackDown, and that's how the show was moved over to Friday night. So even when I wasn't in the WWE, I still helped Vince a lot when he would call me after I left. So yeah, I still, it's a lot of good feelings because I know I did things the right way and out of the kindness of my heart. But you still wish in some ways, because of what I helped them build, even when I had left, that maybe they would have, taken care of me a little bit better. And I'm not even talking just financially. I'm just saying it was always kind of a one-way street. And a lot of talent will say that. But for me, I have proof that it was a one-way street because I did all the things. I don't talk about things that I was a part of that you can't see. Everything I'm telling you right now, everybody's already seen it. And there's proof. So, but I don't live for the recognition. I live for the fun, and I live for to be a good person, and I live for to try to help build people up. And that's kind of where I'm at now. So all that stuff doesn't even bother me anymore.
Let me ask you about The Rock, since we're talking about him. You saw WrestleMania that just passed. Great heel turn with John Cena. I was expecting, as a fan, The Rock to be there. He doesn't show up. To me, there's some heat back there. Do you think there's real heat between Triple H and The Rock?
I have been very open about this on my shows. I know that there is heat because I saw it for many, many, many years. Triple H always, and he can say whatever he wants. He wanted to be who The Rock became. I was there when Triple H had his he was in Blade 3 with Wesley Snipes and Ryan Reynolds. So we had a big debut in Toronto. And then I had to go and host the red carpet, got delayed, had to fly up there with Vince on his private jet. And it was a long day. And I kept telling myself, why am I here? Why am I included in all this? Well, for Vince, I was kind of like a security blanket that if I was there, I'd be like, okay, if he needed to yell at somebody, he could yell at me. And so I'm involved in this watching, and that was just one example of when I knew Triple H, for as much as he loves the business, a lot of guys have egos. And to me, you hit the nail on the head. This is about a power struggle in a new WWE that has a company in TKO that overpaid for the UFC. So now they're using the cash cow that is the WWE to pay off the billions of debt over here. So that's why you're seeing the prices where they are. Everything they're doing is about money. So when you have a power struggle and you have Triple H, who is an old school guy, who is more like Vince than he's not like Vince. And then you've got The Rock, who they paid $40 million to be on the board of directors. And all you have to look at, Joe, is the fact that he was willing to throw even his agent, Ari Emanuel, and all of those under the bus after WrestleMania, when I guarantee you, if you look at a sheet, The Rock was not billed to be on Pat McAfee the Tuesday after WrestleMania. I promise you, he was not. But when he didn't show up, and now that turned the entire WrestleMania event into, where's The Rock? Why wasn't The Rock here during the biggest heel turn in the history of the business when he started it with the throat slashing? So you start to factor all that in. And then he comes on and says, wait a second, I was never a part of that. I just showed up because ticket sales were lagging. But these are the same people, Joe, that say we're selling out faster than ever. So we're raising ticket prices because we're so red hot. So if that's the case, then why does he have to go to Toronto? So for him to say that and then say the final boss, not Dwayne Johnson, the final boss, his job here is done. Let Cena and Cody take it the rest of the way. Take it the rest of the way. This was a one-night thing. So the other part that he put out there is they like to pride themselves, and this has always been a thing, Joe, long-term storytelling. The way we used to do it back in the day is you write stuff, say, all right, here's where we want to be at WrestleMania. Let's back that up. And if Rock is saying, I only went there to sell tickets, then what he's saying is that Royal Rumble, that was just a one-off. We weren't planning for this. And we weren't planning for this now. We're not planning for this for WrestleMania. That exposed all of that. And Rock also said, I wanted all the attention on them, not on me. Well, Joe, he knew by not showing up what would happen.
Everyone's asking.
The attention's going to be on him, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Clearly, he's not a stupid individual. Everything he does is calculated. Everything. So the fact that in 6 months, not a tweet, not an interview, not a statement, nothing other than at McAfee. And if somebody paid me $40 million to be on the Joe Zapata show, I would be promoting Joe to the ends of the earth as much as you wanted me to do that because you just paid me $40 million. There's been zero, not one. The only thing he tweeted at WrestleMania was about a Project Rock shoe or something that came out from Under Armour, and nothing about. So to me, if they want to deny that there's heat, deny that there's heat. I know better. And also, we've been saying on my show with Vince Russo, who also wrote and worked close to Vince McMahon, that Triple H is trying to hang on to the spot that he has because he loves the business. He's just like Vince. He wants to die out on the road. That's how these guys are wired. So right now, Triple H and the money he's making is not nearly as important as having his spot in the company that he grew up in, that he's married to the daughter of. That's very important legacy. If Triple H loses his spot, where does he go? What does he do?
No, I don't know.
That's as important as the money. And so to me, there's a lot of heat, and it's also hurting the business. Maybe not in the here and the now, but they have 9 years of this Netflix money. And I think a lot of times that they're looking at it as, oh, we've got all this money already in the bank. Well, you need to have Rock and Triple H getting along, because long term, if you don't want to pay guys and you don't want to promote guys, and you have The Rock, who's the highest paid of all of them, not even showing up, what are we supposed to think? It's obvious, Joe. It's obvious.
Yeah. I don't see Triple H there in 2 years. What about you?
I said 18 months. So we're on the same. I said 18 months. Yeah.
18 months.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think a lot of this is just his ego. Look what happened at WrestleMania. You've got Bret the Hitman Hart and Stone Cold. They bring him out. These are two guys that are bigger stars than Triple H. They just are. Right. And yet he gave himself an entrance with the water and the whole deal. He's inducted a third time into the WWE Hall of Fame.
His speech was forever. His speech was 3
hour and a half. At midnight. And when you do that, you're trying to show the world, I'm still here. I'm still a star. I've always liked Triple H. I'm also just honest about what I see and what I watch. And I'm literally paid. I've got a daily show on Sirius XM to talk about the wrestling business. And the wrestling business right now has a lot of turmoil at the top. And the week that we're doing this, you've got a weekend where pettiness, in my opinion, has gotten ahead of really good booking, because you got multiple shows on multiple days. And the WWE, who says, oh, we don't pay attention to AEW. Really? Their show, Joe, is called All In. The promo code to buy tickets for the same weekend for the WWE was all WWE.
Wow.
That's as petty as it gets. And Triple H is at the top of that. I don't know where this is going to end. I really, really don't. But I don't think there is a scenario that if Ari Emanuel and TKO want The Rock to heavily be in charge or be involved, I think The Rock wants his guy to be head of creative. And right now, that's Triple H. So I don't think there's enough seats in the room for all the egos right now.
Yep. I think you're 100% right. Your check for 40 million is in the mail, so just letting you know.
Thank you. Thank you.
Obviously, I know the answer to this. Heel or baby face? What do you prefer? Heel, probably.
Oh my God, heel. I mean, it's the most fun I ever had. I mean, when I walked back to the hotel the night that I turned heel in Phoenix, Arizona, 2003 SummerSlam, I got more of this. Oh my God, we never saw it coming. It was long-term storytelling. I wish they would do it today. For weeks, Joe, I've been following Eric Bischoff around, so people will get used to me being around him as his confidant, as his sidekick, whatever. So on that night when he fought Shane McMahon and I came down, oh, JR, there's Coach again, getting ahead of himself, going to interview Eric Bischoff after he beat Shane McMahon. And then what happens? Then I grabbed the chair. I attacked Shane. I turned heel. And it really allowed us to open up a lot of the storylines that we did. I was able to do house shows as a heel ring announcer. And when you can be a heel and you're not a full-blown talent, it allows them to book shows differently. I don't know if you know how house shows are booked, but most of the time the baby faces win because you want the crowd to go home happy. So when they walk out of the arena, they're buying merchandise on the way to the car.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
So a lot of people didn't. And so when I became a heel, what happened was the heels could go over in West Palm Beach on a Sunday afternoon. Then they leave. The baby faces, I then would do something stupid like mispronounce a name or whatever. They would then beat me up. So then the crowd would pop, still go home happy. Now everybody wins. And that was one of the things. And I was also able to wrestle matches and practice in front of a crowd that was not a TV crowd. And that was a big deal for me as well.
I'm going to be honest with you. As a heel, you were over more than some of the the heels that were in there. And you know that.
Yeah, well, it pissed them off too. It pissed him
Oh,
off.
you got heat.
Well,
got a
I
lot of
mean, it wasn't so much heat. I earned my spot, and
Mhm.
once you earn your spot, you don't get that kind of heat. I was already in the company for 4 years. I started in '99. I didn't become a character till '03, so I had 4 years of getting to know people, becoming friends.
Mhm.
So once they decided they wanted me to do that, because I was too big. I'm 6'3.5". I looked The
Yeah.
Rock right in the eye. So I think it's just really different than a new talent that comes in to the show or comes up to the show, because now they have to earn their spot as a wrestler. I didn't have to do that. So it was kind of weird. But to your point, everybody knew that when my music hit, the boos were super loud.
Mhm.
Very few wanted to admit it, because to a worker or a wrestler, boy, that's embarrassing.
Mhm.
If an announcer can get the reaction that you can't get. But the bottom line is, it doesn't matter if you're an announcer or a talent or a diva or a ring announcer. If you can make people feel something when they see you, even if it's disdain, which is
Mhm.
what I got a lot of the time. Now, 20 years later, I get this most of the time. God, I hated you 20 years ago. But I respect you now, because I
Mhm.
understand you had a job to do.
Mhm.
There is nothing more fun than being a heel, nothing more fun than playing a heel. And if you do it right, you can also help a babyface make themselves too. And that's the greatest part of it.
How does the contract work? I don't know. Like, if you're a commentator and then become
Mhm.
a wrestler, do you get more money because you're wrestling? How does that work?
Yeah, so I had a announcer deal, which I was an employee for the company, so I would
Okay.
have benefits and all of that. The wrestlers did not; they were independent contractors, so I had a separate contract.
Okay.
So, and how, but what differed for me was I didn't have a downside guarantee. I just
Okay.
got paid for the shows that I did, bumps that I took. Um, but the boys, the way it worked back then was, and this is why it's kind of like NFL. It's a downside guarantee, and let's say your downside is $500,000. Okay.
Okay.
Um, we would have house shows Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. The other group was Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and they would keep track of every dollar that you made. And at the end of the year, bonuses, pay-per-view money, whatever. If you made over that 500,000, you're straight. If you made 400,000 because you were hurt or they didn't book you or you didn't go to whatever, then they would hand you a check for $100,000. So
Yeah.
that guaranteed number was the most important thing. So back then, if you were in the main event at WrestleMania, this is why I tell people all the time, there is absolute competition in the WWE. They go, Coach, you're an idiot. It's predetermined. I'm like, hear me out. If you were in the main event, it was $1 million bonus.
Wow.
Joe, do you
Wow.
think there's a little competition
Oh,
if you have a
100%.
chance to be in that main event as opposed to the co-main event? I think
100%.
so. I
Mhm.
think so. When Rock and Hogan did their match, I think Triple H and Jericho thought they were going to get main event money, and I don't know what that number was, but
Mhm.
Hogan and Rock, they were the main event. They were the $1 million ticket.
Mhm.
And so for me, I didn't have that guarantee because I
Wow.
already had my salary for doing the shows that I would do during the week when I came back. So it was kind of a hybrid type of deal.
Okay. And you as a heel, you were great on the mic. You were funny. I remember the pyro incident with Kane. That was the funniest shit ever. Was that
Um,
supposed to happen?
that's a question. That's a top 5 question for me. Um, Yes and no. Yes, it was supposed to happen. No, I didn't know that it was going to happen. What
Okay.
happened was Vince used to have these. I call him the old man because I don't even like saying his name right now. So the old man loved to mess with JR. It was
Okay.
like his favorite thing to do.
Mhm.
I don't know why. JR, who I've always gotten along with, he can be a little bit of a curmudgeon. He can
Mhm.
be a little bit, miserable. That's just kind of who he is. But always got along with him. But
Okay.
Vince loved messing with him because he knew that JR took his craft very seriously.
Mhm.
JR, by the way, was also the head of talent relations. So he's the one that wrote the checks to the wrestlers. And when I tell you there was no rhyme or reason, so you have this talent pool. Say a house show makes 500,000, the talent gets 200,000. JR could literally sit down with a book like this and go, "Oh, Undertaker, 100 grand. Jericho, 40 grand." And that's how it
Really?
worked.
Oh
Yeah.
my! I didn't know that.
So you had guys that were making a ton of money that may not, or it was based off of the way the wind was blowing that day. So I'm sure
Wow.
JR was very fair, but there was certainly no prerequisites to it at all.
Mhm,
So
mhm,
some days I would get 750, some days I'd get 1,500. I heard stories of guys that fought each other and got
mhm.
different payouts for the same
Wow.
match. And so that was just kind of, how it went. For that particular thing, Vince was telling me, "Hey, I want you to be super cocky," which was not hard for me to do. He goes, "Put your feet up on the desk and just start messing with JR. Just start talking." I'm like, "Okay, that was not something that was not normal. We did that all the time, just not the feet on the desk." And we had
Mhm,
just moved from ringside back to that spot by the jumbotron.
mhm,
And then as soon as I put my feet up, you've seen it a million times. They hit the
mhm.
Kane's music. It is so loud. It is so hot. It is so insanely scary. And so
Mhm.
I just stumbled, almost went down the stairs behind as well. Thank God I didn't. But
Yeah.
yeah, that was real. And no, I did not know it was going to happen.
Mm. One more question, and then I want to get into something else.
Sure.
We were talking about JR in the booth. Corey Graves. Was
Yep.
there some heat with you and Corey? I know obviously some things happened.
I will say he between us. I'm always going to be honest though.
Okay.
So I made a mistake, and then they made a mistake. The mistake I
Mhm,
made was when I came back, Vince said, "I don't want to lose your credibility that you just got from ESPN." He saw it as a positive that could help the WWE, because pro wrestling will always have credibility issues in mainstream sports. So I was like, "Okay, that makes a lot of sense." And we're going to put you in a 3-man booth. Red flag, red flag. I hate 3-man booths. I hated doing it with King and JR. And I don't know why I didn't stand up for myself. But you got to remember, I'd been gone for a decade.
mhm,
And I was kind of coming back into a different WWE, and also a WWE that for 3 years I've been doing Sports Center on the road with them. So I was like, I just want to fit back in. I just want to go. That was my mistake,
okay.
because I believed Vince. I should have come back as heel coach.
You should have
Corey,
100%.
I 100% should have. That's on me. Where Corey, and I think Corey's done a great job the last month or so.
Mhm,
He stepped in it with his tweets about "I'm not famous enough" and all that kind of stuff. I think he's moved past it. But for us, I should have confronted him backstage. I
mhm,
should have set him down and been, "Listen, stop with the bullshit." Uh, for a 3-man booth, it's like in basketball, you got to run a 3-man weave. And people think that you should argue. One should be a baby face, one should be a heel. It's just the opposite of that. If you're really good at it, then you could be a heel and a baby face and still set each other up.
mhm,
And he refused to do that. And the fan base at the time was like, "Yeah, Corey, go, Corey." And then you had Vince, who, when I came back, I still wanted to do the sports stuff. I had 5 PGA Tour events. And so I told Vince, "All right, you want me to come back, but I'm going to miss these 5 weeks." Well, now you see McAfee misses half the year. Nobody
yep,
cares.
yep,
So I missed my first one. They put somebody in my spot. Don't remember who it was. The second one was Renee Paquette. So Corey and Renee are like best of friends.
mm,
So he was going to do whatever he could at that time to keep her on that 3-man booth. Well, I think Renee's very talented. I like her a lot, have no issues whatsoever. But I think she realized after the honeymoon stage was over, first couple of weeks, "Oh, wait a second. This is a little bit harder than I thought. When I have to do this 52 weeks a year, this is a little bit harder
mhm,
than I thought." And so even she struggled with it. And I just wish, I was glad to see Corey got it a little bit, that he realized that you got to play the game and you
mhm,
got to be a team player. And the one thing I would tell Corey, based off of what he just went through, is there's only 2 places that you can make the kind of money you want to make, and that's WWE and AEW. As long as they don't change your paycheck, things have a way of changing back for you. And look what's
mhm.
happened. Pat
Yeah.
McAfee, for whatever reason, is gone, has
Mhm,
made no announcements about coming back, and Corey stepped right back into that spot.
mhm. Yep,
Sometimes you just got to keep your mouth shut and say, "You know what? It'll come full circle. Nobody took my money. Nobody changed my money. I should have kept my mouth shut." But I
yep.
think he does a nice job. No heat with him today
Okay.
whatsoever. moved on, could care less. But at that time, I should have handled it differently.
Yeah. You're all over the place. I mean, I talked to my son and he said, I told him I'm having you on, and he's like, oh, he's in Madden. And I didn't even know you were in Madden. He's like, yeah. So you're all over the place.
Yeah.
You know, what are you doing now? You have a podcast now with Vince Russo?
Oh God, I hate the word podcast. So I love show, but it's so a few years ago I decided that the media is changing.
Yes.
And yeah, whoever it is, ESPN, talent is not valued anymore. Fox, whatever. AI is huge. And so I had to sit down and I said, you know what can I do to incorporate all of it? And so I actually talked to several big names that I knew that had started their own stuff, like McAfee has done, like Shannon Sharp did with Club Shay Shay.
Mhm.
And they told me, Coach, you're late 40s. And if you don't do it now and you wait another 5 or 10 years, because it takes 3 to 5 to 7 years to really build brands that can make money and that you can. So I said, I need to have half over here where I'm making money, half over here. And when I started doing that, I started focusing on the work instead of on, man, I got to make X amount of dollars. Everything started coming in like faster than I could handle it. So so we have BTT Studios is what we call it. And we have multiple shows that come out of our BTT, Behind the Turnbuckle Studios. And we have a daily show on Stadium in over 100 million homes called Coach and Company. That's sports and sports betting. We have the Coach and Bro Show, which is me and Vince Russo, twice a week, airs on Stadium on Wednesday nights. We have The Last Word, which is our live Monday night show after Raw, and that's Gabby, who used to be on Busted Open. Big Tommy Carlucci, 32 years in the WWE, and one of our other guys from our sports betting show. Those are the 3 shows we do all the time. And then I have my role with the PFL, where I'm kind of a hybrid talent and an executive. I still work for the PGA Tour. I do 6 to 8 events there every year. And then I just added my own radio show on Sirius XM. Pro Wrestling Nation 24/7, 2 to 4. It's called Off the Ropes. So all of that to say, if COVID wouldn't have happened, all of this couldn't have happened, because I walked downstairs. I have a beautiful studio here in my home. I have a digital background that, depending on the company and the show, we just change it to that. I could not be more excited about the future, but also how the business is changing now. And we do a coaching business on the side as well, where I work with a lot of young kids, high school, college, and I tell them, if you can't look at everything I'm doing. If you can't do all of it, you better learn how. Because no longer are the days, Joe, where you can start in Wichita, go to Kansas City, go to the WWE, and that is your journey. Those days are long gone. You got to be able to edit, write, speak, be able to deal with executives. I do all my own deals I don't have an agent. Pat McAfee doesn't have an agent. So anybody that calls me on LinkedIn or whatever, I deal with it myself. And then we have a young lady who, as you know, helps me with my social media, because I simply do not have time to do it. And so I've been able to put a lot of really good people around me. And that's another thing I've learned. If you're going to be successful, then don't be the smartest guy in the room. I used to think, man, nobody can be smarter than me. That's absolutely the opposite of what you should do. If you're building a show, if you're building a brand, get really good, smart people that are smarter than you in a lot of different areas. And that's what we've started to do. And also, you're not going to make money for a long time. You're not significant money. And so what we're doing is slowly every month we make a little bit more, more and more companies are calling us. And then we still have the stuff where we're making money. So it's a beautiful thing. I'm busy as hell. Never been busier, but damn it, Joe, I love it. Every single bit of it.
I was going to ask you, how do you, bet on wrestling if it's predetermined? How does that work?
It's funny, because when we used to talk about this years ago, I was like, this is the dumbest thing ever. It literally, but most of the time, it's very limited. Like $25 is your max. So you can't win millions and millions of dollars. Back when I was in the WWE, I would literally have the entire rundown in my hand at noon with the finishes on it. Then over time, they stopped even giving us out what the matches were going to be, because they realized the internet started to be an issue. Stuff leaking out was an issue, and this was part of that. I have a guy, his name's Rafael Esparza. I call him my numbers guy. his entire business, and him and his business partners, is they make odds for sports books around the world. So let's say there's a sports book in Colombia and they want to increase their usage. They said, hey, can you make odds for SummerSlam? And he'll come up with, like we were talking about the other night. So for this Saturday, you can bet on how many spears will be in the match with Goldberg and Gunther.
Okay.
So you see what I'm saying? So you can get creative. So it's not about who's winning and losing.
Mhm.
You can have what we call prop bets. So between Goldberg and Gunther, the number is 2.5. Will there be at least 3 spears in that match?
Okay.
So that's how you do it. And you can still bet on whether or not they're going to win or lose. But there were some numbers at WrestleMania that heavy favorites ended up losing. So it's not as automatic as you might think, or as easy to pick winners as you might think.
Do you like the 2-day WrestleMania?
Hate it. I think it's stupid. There's not enough talent. And it's turned into a participation trophy event. You've got to fill 14 spots. So this year we had 14 matches, 7 and 7. All anybody talked about was the whole Rock situation. It felt like the rest of WrestleMania didn't happen. And then they try to fill it up so much, and every single thing costs you money. They couldn't have done one thing that was free. They couldn't have done one. You couldn't have had the roast be free. It just seemed like, to me, you had all of these shows already booked. And then they try to paper WrestleMania because it wasn't sold out. I mean, a couple of days before, you had 48,000 and 51,000. Capacity was 62. Where did those people come from in the last 2 or 3 days?
You're right.
Did they just drop off Mars? No, they were papered. And so somebody's got to sit down and realize that just because it's the highest grossing event ever. There was a video I saw the other day, and it's a perfect example of what I'm talking about. They announced WrestleMania for New Orleans.
Okay.
So then you got a week or two, and then they announced they're moving it out of New Orleans back to Vegas. Why?
Yep. The money.
Highest grossing event ever. Let's double that up. 2 problems with that. I saw a video of a young man in a wheelchair that cannot speak. I don't know what he has, but he cannot speak. His mother or his sister does a video and says, hey, let's call him Jimmy. Okay. He's like, this message is for The Rock. Jimmy, say what you want to The Rock. And part of that video, Joe, was, we're going to see you next year. Already booked our tickets for New Orleans, and we're going to come to see The Rock, and we need help getting The Rock to see us. Wow. And I'm watching the video going, damn, I don't know where these people live, but their tickets that they already bought, null and void. Are we not thinking about that? They always say, don't they, on the show, 50, 60 countries are represented tonight here and wherever. Well, you don't think that people save up money, and the minute you announce it, they're now buying a ticket. They're getting a hotel reservation, all that kind of stuff. That's just the one part of it. The other part is that nothing is special. I look at it like this. And to me, if you're main eventing WrestleMania, that's special. When you have 2 nights, are you really main eventing WrestleMania, or are you main eventing night 1 of WrestleMania? But we know that night 2 is the most special night. You no longer have big musical acts because that would cost TKO money. Yep. So you didn't have, I mean, I remember when we had Ashanti do America the Beautiful, we'd have a lot of different celebrity bands be a part of it. None of that happens anymore. But on top of everything else, it just takes away. And the fact that they do SummerSlam like this, Survivor Series like this, Royal Rumble is going to be in Saudi Arabia next year. It's going to be like this. It's too much for the almighty dollar. I absolutely hate it. I always have. And I wish they all were just one night.
Me too. 100%. Who is your Mount Rushmore of wrestling? I wanted to know that.
Interesting. It changes by the day. It changes by the day. I have reasons for it. So John Cena is definitely on mine. I traveled with him for a long time. He's really embraced everything about the wrestling business. The Rock is absolutely on mine. I've never seen a person more committed to something than he was the minute he would walk in the door until the main event went off that night. And he was always in the last match of the last, and everything he did was planned out throughout the day. It was amazing to watch him go about his business. To me, Stone Cold Steve Austin is also on my Mount Rushmore because he did it his way. He's a leader in, it doesn't always have to be the traditional way of doing things. Just like at ESPN, Stuart Scott taught me, Coach, if you're going to do it your way. Don't try to be in the box because that's not who you are. Stone Cold, once he got out of the box and became Stone Cold, he became, he's made more money than anybody in the history of the business. Then my fourth one tends to change. It should be Hulk Hogan. Yeah. I can't get there because I don't respect him, and I don't respect the stuff that's come out of his mouth. But if you're saying who revolutionized the business, would the business in the WWE be here without Hulk Hogan? The answer is no. Yep. Because WrestleMania 1 would have been a disaster. Vince would have completely gone broke, and who knows who would have picked up the pieces. So it should be Hulk. I just can't put him on there. I just can't. So to me, it's got to be The Undertaker because WrestleMania is what WWE is all about. And he became the WrestleMania god with over 20 participations, over 20 matches. And so to me, those are the four: Taker, Stone Cold, The Rock, and John Cena.
Great. That's really great. Coach, I could talk to you forever, but I want to be respectful of your time. Thank you so much. Let's do this again if we can, because you were absolutely great. I love talking to you. I'm going to leave all your descriptions of where to find you, BTT Studios. Coach, thank you so much for coming on. I'll talk
Pleasure was all mine. Pleasure was all mine. Good luck with your show.
Thank you.
I love the background. I love the voiceover guy. I would love to come back anytime.
Yes.
But we all have to support each other. We all have to, no matter how big or how small, it does not matter to me. And I like meeting good people, and obviously you're a good dude. So thank you and good luck with everything. Okay.
Yeah, I tried to reach out to Vince Russo actually once or twice. He didn't get back to me. So maybe you could tell him, hey, talk to Jersey Jay Z.
That's very Vince Russo-ish. Yeah, I'll talk to him. I happen to know a guy who knows a guy.
Yeah, thank you. So, you know a guy?
Yeah.
Thank you, Coach. I love you. Thank you, brother.
You got it, man. Be good.
Thank you. Thanks, man.
Thanks for watching the Zapata Brand Podcast. Please subscribe to the podcast and listen where all podcasts are available.